my hormones. Really good for you, apparently, but doesn't taste the best. Pretty earthy, but I am taking care of myself. Over here. I have filmed this video twice now. The second time I filmed it, I actually edited it entirely. It just didn't feel right. I'm kind of on this journey right now to be more sincere. For a while, I've recognized that I tend to cope with humor, try to buffer things with like a very jokey joke attitude, and well, I think sometimes that is a good and healthy coping mechanism, and some people could afford to lighten up. I think I've just been worried about my own irony poisoning. I understand why I've swung this direction. I used to be really, really serious when I was uber religious, and when my world fell apart, tipped upside down, and I kind of liberated myself from that mode. I think I just swung really hard in the opposite direction, where like nothing matters and life is absurd and ridiculous, and why should I take it or myself seriously? And I'm just trying to find that middle ground. Practicing being sincere is uncomfortable, but already I'm noticing myself tapping into a place that has been, I guess, buried, whatever. Anyway, the two other times I tried to film this video, I just felt like I was trying really hard to be goofy, silly, fun, entertaining. And while this is definitely a channel that is meant to a certain extent, entertain, it's really important for me to be able to speak authentically and be in the energy that I find myself in at the given time. And I was definitely trying to force something that I wasn't feeling. My energy levels lately have just been a little off, a little low, hence the dandelion root tea. And sometimes you try so hard to snap yourself out of that, and it just ends up making it worse. Like, I'm really trying to settle into it, let it be what it is, and so I apologize, I guess, if my energy is a little lower in this video, but ultimately this channel is for me, a place for me to be able to speak and express myself, and so that is what I'm going to prioritize. But having said all that, that is somewhat the reason why I am posting a June TBR on the 14th of June, literally halfway through June. It's not even entirely a TBR because I am in the middle of reading one of the books, which is my big one that I have to return to the library before I go back to New York, Crossroads by Jonathan Franzen. So I'm almost halfway through, if you can tell. And like I said, I am going back to New York and don't want to carry too many books with me, because once I'm there, I have to start working on getting rid of them or sending them home. I am clearing out from my place in Brooklyn, and I don't want to make that too much harder for myself, so I have selected a stack of shorter books. It's still a pretty good stack for me, and it's pretty decent, but I think I can get through most of them, and I'm guessing that this June TBR will probably extend a little bit into July. It's okay. There are no rules. So I just want to talk a little bit about each of these and why I've picked them, besides the fact that they are short. And I'll start with Call Me By Your Name by Andre Osman. Most of you have probably heard of this via the movie with Timothy Chalamet and Armie Hammer. When I first saw the movie, back when it came out, I want to say like 2018 or so, I loved it, but I'm wondering, going back into it now that I'm a little older, if maybe the age gap will register with me as questionable, because I think it probably is. If you don't know, the plot is about a teenager, so a teenage boy, older teenager, but still, who has like a romance with a guest who is visiting his parents on the Italian Riviera. I was looking for something to celebrate Pride Month. Happy Pride Month, by the way. I'm hoping this isn't a problematic pick, but it's a gay romance, so yeah. I'm excited to read it because of the movie, the quality of light in it. That summer Italian setting was just gorgeous, and I haven't started reading it yet, but I've already started listening to the soundtrack, because that is also just really, is poignant the right word? There's something so tender about this story and about the way it was told, at least cinematically, and I'm looking for that again in the book with a more critical eye. And then I ended up finding a few other books that are appropriate for Pride Month, just kind of, I guess by accident. They're just books I've been wanting to read, and they're short. The next one is called A Minor Chorus by Billy Ray Belcourt. Billy Ray Belcourt is a queer author and an indigenous voice, and I was recommended his writing from a bookseller friend of mine who had just gotten their PhD, and now that I've just finished my master's program and I'm feeling a certain sort of way about that, I really was taken in by the synopsis, which describes that this is a book about a queer indigenous doctoral student who steps away from his dissertation to write a novel. And it addresses issues like police violence, colonialism, I am guessing academia, so marginalized scholars, and I also know that Billy Ray Belcourt is a poet, and so I just know that the writing, I've already read a few. I like to flip through sometimes and just pick out random paragraphs to read, and it is beautiful writing. The topic is somewhat appropriate for me. I'm still processing what it means to have a master's degree and for that to be over, and my feelings about academia before and after my program are I'm trying to reconcile them. Academia is a fraught place and is still important, but yeah, anyway, we have Paradise Rot by Jenny Hval, and I know Jenny Hval originally from her music. She has an album called, I think it's called Classic Objects, and the first song is one of my repeats. This is also by a queer author. Also blurbed on the back by Chris Kraus, who wrote I Love Dick, which I've only seen the show on Amazon Prime, but I was obsessed with that. It is about a woman who moves to a new country to go to school, and it's a surreal novel. There's an element of horror in it. I think there's not much of a plot to this one. It's more, I think what we're going to explore is the melting and blurring of her reality, and there's also supposed to be a lot of bodily fluids and grossness, which I'm not sure is my thing. It says in the synopsis that the lines between bodies and plants blur and mesh. And I don't know if I've read anything like that, except maybe Annihilation, which I'm a fan of. So I have high hopes for this one. Okay, the next book I have is The Employees by Olga Ravin. Oh! The first blurb is from Jeff Vandermeer, who wrote the Annihilation series. That's funny. A little bit of a tie, kind of, between The Employees and Paradise Rot, I guess. But the premise of this is super. It's formatted in a very interesting way. Each page is just a different interview with a member of the crew of a spacecraft. In each interview, they are being asked about their relationship to these strange objects that the spaceship has been picking up. And I guess we start to find out that even though nobody really knows what these objects are, they're feeling a kind of attachment to them. And I did some of my work in grad school about the subject-object relationship and kind of conceptualizing maybe the inversion of bear with me, the prioritization of subject over object. We tend to think of the subject as an agent and the object as this passive, inert thing that we act upon, but there is something to imagining the way that the object seduces and the subject is drawn to the object by a kind of magnetism or some sort of attraction. Anyway, I just love exploring the relationship between us and the objects of our everyday life that we tend to take for granted because they have a preconceived use. Like we see I'm looking at a glue stick right now. It means something to me. I have a very particular kind of relationship with that glue stick because of my history, because it's been predetermined. But what happens when we come across objects that we don't understand their purpose, or like it's almost like being a baby and seeing an object for the first time. We can't exactly remember what that's like, and that's something that art and art objects can do for us. And so this is actually a work of fiction that an artist named Leah Guldita Hesteland, I think she's Scandinavian, so I hope I'm saying that right. She's Danish, and she did an exhibit called Consumed Future Spewed Up as Present, and it's an exhibit full of strange objects. I'll try to post a picture of some of them here. And she asked Olga Ravin to write a work of fiction that integrated this exhibit. So you've got this weaving of art and speculation and the subject-object relationship. I can't believe it's taken me this long to get to this. I think I've been saving it for the right moment. I think it's one of those books that I've waited so long because I have such high hopes for it, not because I haven't wanted to read it. So that's The Employees by Olga Ravin. And the last novel I have is a classic, The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Like I said, I'm going back to New York, probably for the last 2 months of my life, probably. I'm a West Coast girl, West Coast Southwest person, and as much as my experience in New York has been life-changing for sure, it's time for me to go. But while I'm there for the last 2 months, I'm going to do my best to make the most of it, especially now that I'm out of school. I can just focus on being a pseudo-New Yorker, definitely a tourist, even though I've got a Brooklyn zip code. But anyway, this is very much a New York book. Maybe not the most like celebratory of New York. I think it's probably pretty cynical from what I've heard about the main character Holden, who's a teenager who is himself very cynical and frustrated with people and with city life, I think. I just know that he's considered an insufferable person, but there's something about that, and this being a red flag book, that I'm the kind of person who, when she hears that something's a red flag, I'm like, ooh, I want to read it now. I mean, it's like not being able to look away from something morbid or naughty or taboo. But there's a reason why this is so popular, and I know a lot of people who, whether they want to like it or not, they do, and a lot of people who hate it, and maybe they're better people, but nonetheless, that there's a part of me that has loved my New York experience and the people in New York, and there's a part of me that would like an expression of all of the real reasons to be disillusioned with that city. It's a mixed bag, as most things are. It's time for me. So many people have read this. I never got to read it in high school, so it's time. Okay, my last two books are actually poetry books. The first one is Normal Distance by Elisa Gabbert, I think. I have read her essay collections, The Unreality of Memory, and The Self is the Only Person? The person is the only self? Something like that. I'll post a picture. Anyway, I loved her essay collections. I love the themes that she explores. She's kind of a dry, direct kind of writer. Like, her prose isn't super flowery, or I don't want to say that it's not noteworthy. It's a certain style, but it's not the main reason I'm drawn to her books, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's because of the topics that she chooses and the way that she explores them. So catastrophe, the human relationship to like the possibility of catastrophe, apocalypse, climate change, natural disaster, pandemics, and then also she's a writer who writes about writing. She's a writer who writes about memory and thinking about thinking. And these are topics that really speak to me, and I've actually read a few of the poems in this poetry collection, and they're very much on theme, in line with what she explores in her essays. And finally, I want to read this June 2021 edition of the Poetry Journal, or magazine, I don't know what you call it. It's just, a bunch of different contributors in here, so there's not one main theme, I don't think they theme these. I literally only picked this one. I have a huge stack of them that I got when I was working in a thrift store. I got a very good discount. I just have been trying to get into poetry lately, and I find this a really good way to get into poetry, like being able to sample different styles, because sometimes it can be, at least in the beginning for me, cracking into poetry was difficult because I didn't know what I liked, and so I was buying or reading, a collection by one author that I had never read before, and not connecting with it, and feeling like maybe I just wasn't a poetry person. But as I started to read these, there are poems I don't like, but you flip the page and there might be a poem you do like by a different person that's a different style, and then that can lead you down this rabbit hole of a certain style or a certain poet. Anyway, it's just a really good gateway to poetry, these collections, I find. I'm really excited to read these books, actually. I hope I do get to all of them. It's possible I won't. I've definitely got other things I have to do, but I'm flying through Crossroads because it's just sucked me in. If I end up posting my June reads in the middle of July, so be it. Yeah, thank you for being here. thank you for taking me at what I am in this moment. And it's really good to be here. It is. I really enjoy talking to you, whoever you are, even if that's just myself. I like talking about these things. I hope you're having a good June. Happy Pride Month, of course.